Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's a pleasure to see you all today. And I would like to start by thanking everybody who tuned in, and would love to bring out our guest, yeah, to welcome everybody and have a conversation about, what does it take today to get funding in the AI industry. Somebody that's been um, working with multiple multi-billion dollar companies, has successfully been part of teams that raised capital, went public, and is now running one of the biggest communities in Silicon Valley. Please welcome um, to talk to us today, Marianne Baker.
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Pavel.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, for everybody to have a better understanding, about your journey, if you could tell everybody and tell us a little bit about how did you get into technology, and then how did it transition from being a technologist into a person that um, decides also, about investments, but also manages to get a lot of capital into the businesses that you're working in. So I think everybody will be fascinated to hear a little bit about that story.
Definitely. Well, I fell in love with coding when I was like 13 or 14. My dad is a software engineer, so I got inspired by him. And I studied software engineering in Canada, in Montreal at McGill. And then I moved to the Bay Area. As a software engineer, I started my career here, and it's been amazing because my career grew with the boom of San Francisco. Around like 2011. So I became a senior software engineer and then an engineering manager, and I started leading different engineering teams at different startups. And most of the startups that I joined, we got acquired. So most recently, I was director of engineering at Mindbody. We were a public company, and we got acquired by one of the largest private firm. And at that point, I was head of engineering for San Francisco, Pune, and New York offices. So it was a very exciting journey. After that, once after we got acquired, I left to start my own company. My company was working really well, but I was always an engineer. I wasn't an entrepreneur, so I needed to figure out how to build a successful company. So I started going to all of these like founder event, but I found it really hard to find about them. I didn't really find a supportive community for me, so that I decided to build one. And over the last 2 years and a half, I've been building Founders Bay. We grew from zero to over 150,000 founder, VC, and operator. We invested in a bunch of AI startups. And then my love for community and um, my love for technology, I found like the perfect place for me at U.com. So I joined as their head of DevRel to really merge both technology and build community of developers, and also just democratize AI, make AI accessible for all. So super excited to be here with all of you today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah, and to set the stage for everybody, we are in the middle of a completely new build out, a new tech stack that will manage both what's happening online, but also what's happening in the physical world is being developed. It's a multi-trillion dollar effort. Um, and technology has become less and less of a barrier, right? More and more people are becoming extremely capable in the way that they apply their engineering skills. And it's no longer the question of, can you build it? Is your technology the moat? Um, but are you able to create a market for this? Are you able to build the go to market? And that's a fascinating intersection. Specifically, there are niche applications like robotics, right? All types of applied AI, physical AI situations. And I'm wondering, how do you perceive the total transformation of software using AI, and how does robotics specifically fit into that from a perspective of a technologist and investor?
Yeah, definitely. So, two of the companies that I recently invested in, they were both in robotics. And how I see it evolve is that, like in the past, right, like we had the hardware to be able to operate robots, but we didn't have the, I would say, like the software behind it to make them like smart enough for them to be able to reproduce what humans do, especially in industries. But now with the rise of LLMs, we can do that. Finally, we can implement an LLM capability into the robots, and really humanoids can become a reality. So one of the company that I invested in, they basically provide humanoids for manufacturing at a very, very low cost. And the other one, they provide like drones that are also smart and intelligent. So we're really changing, we're really seeing that shift, because suddenly robots can be smart, robots can have like, you know, an LLM guiding them inside of them. And that's the big difference in the current market. And I want to talk also a little bit about, because we said how to get funded in AI and the technology mode. And a lot of people think, okay, well, I have an AI product. How do I get funded? It's not different than getting funding in any other industry, where it's not necessarily about technology anymore. It's really about your ability to go to market, like you said, and your ability to get customer, your ability to get attention at this stage in time, because right now attention is very fickle. So do you have a big distribution channel, or are you able to get that distribution channel that's going to really make a difference?
I totally agree. Um, Ironically enough, the thing that started it all is called attention is all you need. And it refers to the way that these new systems uh, prioritize, their sequence. But obviously, it's also the reality of founders is that they need to get attention and they need to bring interaction to their products. Um, from the perspective of having multiple exits in your career and being part of these teams that really build a product that is investable. Um, you saw from that perspective as a technologist, as a person that actually shipped high quality code, yeah, and delivered high quality product, which most investors have never interacted with a GitHub repo. Most VCs have, until recently, never built a product that was scalable into production. Um, you've seen the shift now into easier ways to build, but is it the case that you can create these very complex systems uh, specifically in the robotics space? So do you believe that it's still very important to have this deep subject matter expertise, or are the technology tools now making this area of development more accessible?
Yeah. So right now, with the rise of vibe coding,
Mhm.
right, it's way easier to prototype an MVP. Right, you can use like Lovable, you can use Claude Code, you can build agents, and then you can use U.com APIs to like search the web. Those are just like simple steps for you to be able to build apps. When it What is the issue? The issue is when you have a production ready app, like you have an app that is already serving 100 million users,
Mhm.
right? Like the code base is complex, the code base has multiple code base and multiple systems that talk to each other. Right now we don't currently have AI capable enough to be able to debug these like big enough system that are very unique. AI is great when it starts from scratch, right? Because like it doesn't need to have the context. But if you have a code base that's already been present, that is interacting with tons of other code bases, the LLM is not trained on that. So you still need like really high, like senior engineers to be able to debug that. And now, when we talk to robotics, the way that you code hardware goes more into lower level coding, right? And assembly language and C, and like more of the C and Java. And right now, you definitely can use AI to generate some of the code, but it can't code it on its own. You still need to understand the hardware and software landscape to be able to do that and be a more like lower level engineer and even understand like assembly language. So we're not completely there yet. Are we going to be able to be there in the future? Probably, but I still believe that engineers will become more like system architects, right? They will guide the AI on how to build things. And let me give you an example. For example, like the platform that we built with Founders Bay, we built it on Lovable, but still AI did like some major mistakes. So you still need engineering to design the system and to guide it on how to build things and what is the best practices.
I I believe that there's a mixture coming up, where you will have contextual systems and intent driven systems, right? That can actually work fully on, I would call them templates or components, yes, pre existing architecture. So the AI doesn't have to, every time when you want to build a dog, and it builds a aeroplane dog, yeah, and the next time it's going to build a bicycle dog, and the next time it's a wall dog, um, but it just has to understand that you want a dog every time. So contextual systems, intent driven systems, I think are quite fascinating to study. Would you say that the way you build and the way that you operate software has now fully changed, right? Is this the case that you basically now have fully transitioned yourself, your whole team, every venture that you're working on into, uh, uh, I would say, augmented workflow? And what are you using? What kind of tools would you say that people need to get into to augment their output so they become attractive to investors?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, the world has changed in the last 2 years, right? The way that it changed is right now we have one of the most powerful tools at our fingertips, right? We have the LLMs. They can help us in every aspect of our jobs. What that means is not that our job is going to be replaced. It means that we can be 10 times more productive that we could be. We still need engineering, but every engineer can be 10x more productive. We still need content writers, but they're going to be 10x more productive. We still need like data analysts, but they're going to be 10x more productive. So personally, how I use AI, one, so at my job at u.com, for example, I write a lot of content for developers, right? I definitely use AI to help me write that content, just to also, English is my third language, to review my English. So it, even though I'm the one who comes up with the ideas and I'm the one who come up with the subject, right? AI helps in terms of like just making my flow a little bit smoother. So that's one of the ways that they help out. In software development, for example, I wanted to build an agent to generate content, and I was able to use Claude Code to do that. Of course, I still needed to understand engineering because you still need to like debug the terminal and like connect and do all the integrations. But it was like 10 times faster than it was if I was going to do it on my own. And then right now, like the thing that people, I think, don't realize is like, even though you use these coding tools, right? Like, even though now you can build agents, you still need accurate, like, search information, accurate information to guide those agents. And that's where like u.com comes in, because with u.com APIs, now you can go and you can search the web in real time and get the fresh information for your agents. So all these tools just help you become more productive. In terms of what I use, I alternate between like ChatGPT, between Anthropic. I love Lovable, Cursor, u.com for the search APIs. So there's so many tools at your disposition right now to just help you become more productive. And in terms of like engineering, let's say in the past, like I used to have to build an MVP. I used to need probably like 3 to 6 months to build an MVP with 5 to 8 engineers and designers and like product managers. Now we could do it in 2 days, which is like incredible. So it did make us more productive. It did change the world in that way.
I totally agree. And the tooling is crucial and it needs to be connected into your workflows, right? I think that's a fascinating interactions that engineering teams that are both smaller, but like, engineering teams that would have 50, 60, 100 people working with them, transitioning these teams to use tooling in a way that doesn't break the bank, isn't, $1,000 in API credits per day per developer, right? Because we've both seen examples of this kind of excessive use. I think to do that in an optimized way is very valuable. And diving into your perspective for the developers for the upcoming event. We have almost 5,000 people building right now the robotics and AI use cases. We're going to see a few hundred of them stop by the office in San Francisco. Yeah, they're working with some of the top of the line partners, top of the line technologies, and the focus is around building, the software that drives the future application layer for robotics. Yeah? We see high multiples in AI, but we also see very high multiples for investors in the hardware space in robotics. Do you see that transferring to the orchestration, coordination, and application layer for robotics? That this will be, a new category setter with its own budgets, own multiples, own, next 100 top startups?
Yes, definitely. So, right, the reason why I'm investing in robotics and not, for example, SaaS products is because right now the world is changing, right? Like, we don't know if, like, you can build SaaS tools in maybe one day or maybe in a few hours. You can reproduce almost every SaaS tool out there with these new coding tools. So I don't know how the SaaS landscape is gonna look like. Actually, all those traditional software we've been investing in are gonna be changed and updated. So that's why I don't really invest in that. But robotics right now, because of this ability for humanoids to be able to be smart, right? We can unlock ways of operating that we haven't in the past. So I do believe right now robotics is probably one of the industries that is the most attractive to investors, because yes, like LLMs could replace a lot of the SaaS tools, but humanoid, it's a new category. I really do believe that in like 2 to 3 years, every single person is going to have a humanoid in their home. Every single manufacturer will have humanoids working in the industries. So we're going to really see the rise of robotics, and we're already seeing it now. And I do believe because of that, we're going to see multiples that are very similar to the SaaS industry and even above, when investor realize that, hey, if I'm investing in a SaaS tool and then Claude Code can come in and replace it in one day, but they can't do that for humanoids and robotics and hardware. It's not easily reproducible, and that's where you still have technology moat. That's probably one of the only industry you have technology moat, and that's why I believe like the multiple, they're going to have its own multiple. It's going to be a bigger industry with more money getting poured in.
I think that these vertically integrated opportunities, right? Create the chance for category defining software products. As an example, a system that combines, visual processing, digital twins, and the ability to interact in these environments, create these simulated environments, and the data set that allows you to put, more vertical uh, fit into this, whether it's for an operating theater or a warehouse environment or a home cleaning environment or factory, environments. Mm, these data sets and training these models to avoid the boundaries of the mistakes, let's call it, or hallucination, um, and still have a lot of trust in how precise will be the model. Yeah. So if developers and entrepreneurs can access these pockets of innovation, yeah, I think that companies like this will be built here in the US, but very similar companies on different data sets can be built in Indonesia, Colombia, Australia, right? And because what you have to remember that as you create the go-to-market, in a given regulatory environment, you also allow yourself to be successful, in Germany, Italy, US, Australia. And and I think there will be extreme oversight from the regulators to ensure that data doesn't leave specific environments, especially very sensitive data. Yeah? So that only enhances your point of creating moats. Yeah. Um, because once you get access to this data, you can actually create a moat that is much better. Switching gears a little bit, I'm wondering. Obviously, you're an extremely successful female founder. Um, what would you say is your assessment of uh, the female founder reality in deep tech and robotics? Right, I expect that we will have quite a bit of young people joining the event. Yeah, coming from all backgrounds, all cultural heritage, and also mixed in terms of between female and male founders in general, their gender. Uh, but is this the typical Silicon Valley experience? Would you say?
So they bring me a really good point. So one of the reason that I started Founders Bay is because like one of when I used to go to all these like founder events, I found myself being the only woman in the room. Or sometimes there was like maybe two other women in the room, and then there would be like a wave of like 100 to 200 other men, but no women there. And then I quickly realized like one of the reasons like women were not present is because they didn't know that these events happening. They weren't in those like VC founder circle. So I'm like, okay, well, what if I start reporting on all of these events so that the women can find them? And that's how Founders Bay started growing. And Founders Bay originally started with like a women founder group. So now we have a group of over 600 startups, and they're all female founded. And female founders have a superpower because there's so much studies that shows that for every dollar that you invest in a female founder, you return $1.88 of return compared to 33 cents for the male counterpart. So us women, we make amazing entrepreneurs. And I do believe because of that, there's going to be more money getting poured into female founders. Of course, now the reality is that there's less women building in deep tech, but I think that is changing, and we need more programs and more awareness of that issue. And another issue also that is happening is like, even though women, they actually start 50% of all businesses in the US, and they start over 30% of all tech startups. People are often surprised by these numbers. We still receive less than 2% of VC funding. So we definitely need to do programs or being more aware of that, so that, for example, like one of the things that you could help is like if you see a woman on social media, if you see her post, like and comment it. You can do these like micro actions to really help out. If you go to a conference and you don't see women presenting at a conference, go and ask the organizer, why isn't there women there? If you are organizing an event, if you're putting panelists and you are putting, or you're doing a pitch event, make sure that women are represented, make sure women are judges. So in Founders Bay, all of our events, we make sure that women make 50% of the speaker list, sometimes 100% of the speaker list. And tonight, for example, we have a women pitch competition where we invited all of our investor network, and we have 10 women pitching on stage. So every single one of them, every single one of us could come together and just help make that stat deprecated, right? There is no reason why women shouldn't receive 50% of the funding. And it takes every single one of them to make that change in the world, because like the world is going to be a better place that way. If women make up 50% of the entire world, right? So we should build products, and women should be in the decision maker seat when building those products, because they understand ourselves more than others. Yes, and women are multipliers. I see that in the chat.
This is what I wanted to say. It seems that this is the only right data-driven decision, right? And I think that's kind of where it's coming from, and it's definitely what investors look at. Investors look at what are the standards that provide the best multiples,
Exactly.
and from this perspective, do you think, how hard today would you say do you have to, not to work, but how far do you have to get with your prototype in order to get financed, right? Would you say that an extremely high fidelity simulated environment, right, that proves that the founders can solve the software product and the software challenges means that they will be able to deploy this in a hardware product? Yeah, I think you answered this partially saying we've solved the hardware years ago, and now it was a question of how much horsepower is available in the software. So do you see now very high fidelity software products that would receive financing in the robotics space?
All right. Okay. So let's talk real talk for a second,
Yes.
right? And I'm not going to repeat what everybody is going to say. Your ability to get funding depends on your network and not necessarily on your product. And I'm going to repeat that. I have friends who have a large network of investors that were pre-product with just an idea that were able to raise 3 million. And I have friends who have an amazing product with users that were not able to raise. All right. So it depends on your network. And that's why with anybody now can create technology in the world, right? Especially with AI. But 70 or 80% of funding is coming from San Francisco because of that network of investors. So, what I tell entrepreneurs is yes, focus on building a product, right? You need an MVP, sometimes focus on getting traction, but also focus on building your network. And especially if you're in Silicon Valley, there is at least 10 events happening a day with investors. Go and meet them, build those relationships so that when you're ready to raise, you can go and you have a list of 200 investors you can reach out to that will listen to your idea. It's a numbers game at the end of the day, getting funding. You need to pitch to at least 100 to 200 investors. That means that you need to know at least 200 to 300 investors. So build your network to be able to get funding. I will continue doing that. And then also just remember, investors are people, right? If they like you, they will invest in you regardless of your product. So focus on building that network and also focus on building traction. Like if let's say an influencer comes with me and that influencer has 1 million people and the 1 million people following them are all like head of engineering and their product is selling to engineering, even without a product, I will invest in them, right? Because they have a mode, they have a distribution channel. If somebody is a research scientist that worked at Hyundai or Ford, for example, in automotive, and they have expertise that nobody else has, right? That's a moat, and investors will invest in that pre-product as well. So like figure out your moat, right? Like, is it your experience? Is it your distribution channel? Is it your network of investors? More than figuring out your product. And that's how you're going to get funded.
I think that is very, very valuable insight. I will push back a little bit on that, and maybe also bring in uh, not a contrarian belief, but a belief that we are now, thanks to the democratization of access to technology, entering an era where I hope uh, the ability to get financed and noticed will not only depend on the network, right? So I think that here, especially in Silicon Valley, networks are extremely important. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity globally for founders, whether you're in Texas or you're in New York or you're in Jakarta or you're in Sydney, to also use the reach and the attention needed across social media, across different financing platforms, um, to allow people to get access to early stage investment, early stage liquidity. Yeah. Um, so for sure, you can do that if you know the right people and you're here locally. But if you don't have that ability, you should also get an opportunity to be successful. Yeah. I strongly believe that founders should build and launch products um, globally, and to prove the ability that they can build, deliver, get revenue, get attention of users, um, and then mix all of those components that you mentioned as well. Right? It's still super important to be able to build bridges and to get access to investors. Um, when you look at the narrow case, you must also sometimes look at the big picture or the big strategic vision. um, where do you see the implementation of these complex models in physical embodied elements? Where do you see the big vision taking us? Uh, is it towards universally available support, um, universally available humanoid robots, universal automation? Is there an play for general intelligence inside robotics?
Yeah, definitely. I think humanoids can help in every industry. So we're already seeing like self-driving cars, right? With Waymo disrupting the automotive industry, with robotaxis disrupting that. In manufacturing, I think we're going to see more humanoids working in machines. I was like recently saw this amazing startup pitch where people are renting robots now for manufacturer to be able to just like all the manual work that humans had to do on the industry line. Now humanoids can replace that. And humanoids, they don't need to look like humans, right? Like it doesn't have, they don't need to be human, they could be machines, right? Like it could be a machine that does one specific task, and that's enough to deploy it somewhere. In terms of intelligence in robots, I think, for example, that could play out in healthcare, right? Like right now, there's not enough nurses, right, to be able to take care of everybody. So I do see us humanoids being in hospitals, helping out, doing these menial tasks that humans don't want to do. In agriculture, I do see it like picking the fruits, right? It come going up, and like even having machines that are smart enough to be able to optimize when to put a seed in the ground, for example. So I do believe that like in a few years, every single industry could benefit from like a smart hardware. What it looks like, it doesn't necessarily need to look like a human. It'll just do the task that humans don't want to do.
Yes, uh, that is the promise. right, of technology to improve lives and really solve big problems. Um, from the way that people are approaching it today, it seems that there's a lot of decentralization, a lot of local opportunity that's coming. Um, the hackathon that's happening this Saturday and Sunday, right, um, is championing founders to launch products and companies regardless of the location that they're at, and the market that they're going after. Um, do you think, these are the mechanics to get 5,000 people going in one direction, yeah, and fulfilling the idea of solving a big problem? How do you see that perspective of reaching these founders globally, or do you see a very dominated environment here in Silicon Valley, especially for big models and robotics?
Yeah. So one, I'm super excited about the hackathon, right? I think hackathon are great ways anywhere in the world to go and meet potential co-founders or meet investors or just go and get in front of the newest tools that are happening. So I'm a huge fan of hackathons. So I'm super excited for Saturday, Sunday. In terms of like Silicon Valley compared to the rest of the world. All right. So 70 to 80% of all the funding is coming from Silicon Valley, right? We have so much money flowing here. It doesn't mean that if you're somewhere else in the world, you can't get that money. But being here is a huge advantage because the investors are here. Money is originating from here. If you are somewhere else in the world and it's very hard to get in Silicon Valley, you still can build like amazing companies, right? Right now, there's more and more countries that do have investors in their own country, especially for, the seed stage. So, and also not only that, but some government provide the funding. Like in Canada, for example, the government provides a lot of grants for entrepreneurs. So I do encourage you for your country to go and see, what does your government provide? What does your ecosystem look like? And even let's say there isn't enough VCs or there isn't VCs like in Silicon Valley, as you said, build a product and start getting traction, right? If you see that your product has like 100,000 users, you can always pit investors would want to learn about you. They will start reaching out to you to invest with you. So you can still make it overseas. It's not a problem. And what I see is like a lot of startups, they start overseas, they gain traction overseas. And then once they have traction and they prove the market and they have revenue, they come here and they raise funding here. And that's something that's very feasible and something that happens all the time. Most people in San Francisco are not from San Francisco. They moved here internationally, actually.
Yeah, I look at builders globally. So we have this pleasure of interacting with hundreds of thousands of developers, right? And successful products and ideas can originate anywhere in the world. And I definitely see a barrier where capital is very centralized and only available, or not only, but mostly available in Silicon Valley. So this is one of the things that um, is our goal to solve, is to bring builders together and to give them an opportunity to meet investors, right, such as yourself as well, and meet them online, uh, meet funds, and also, if they wish, um, and there's a fit to also launch financing capacity online. Uh, what do you look for when you would now, say to the people that are building and submitting? Ideally, I think we'll see more than 100 new prototypes and products be created. You will look at them and also look for the next big thing, right? Uh, what would you say in this vertical would be your number one indicator that you would like to continue to talk to the team, right? Um, is it their background? Is it how they build what they build? or their motivation to take it to market and so on. So where are the key decision points that you would look at them for investment?
Yeah, a few things. Definitely at the pre-seed and seed stage where, hackathon, you come in with an idea, right? It's a fresh idea. Your background is going to be super important because that's one of the biggest data point that investors have, right? Like, are you research if you are building, let's say, in agriculture, or one of your hackathon project is in agriculture, especially for robotics, right? That um, do you have that edge? Like, one of the founders that won a hackathon, and one of the reasons we chose him is that he was building like an agriculture product. His family has been generation has like multiple farms, right? So like, build something that your knowledge is so unique for. Another thing also I look for, this is the thing in hackathon, I feel like sometimes 90% of the project are the same thing, trying to build AI for like tax purposes or AI for the restaurant business. And it's always the same project over and over again. Build something unique. Again, what is the problem that you personally have, and what do you know more than 99% of of the people? Once you figure that out, you can really build something unique, and investors will kind of link that to your background, and they'd want to talk to you more. Another thing also for hackathons is make sure your demo is right on point. You're going to present to the judges, and if you have an amazing demo, it's even more important than having amazing code behind it, because it means you understand the use case, you understand how to present, you understand how to sell your demo. So really think about the demo less about showing your product and more about selling your idea. And once you have that shift, you're more likely to win the hackathon and just be in front of investors afterwards.
Yeah, I think when you invite people to build in such a short time frame as well, right? Prioritizing these components means the difference between getting financed and not getting financed. So from this perspective, I also really liked the way that you would ask people to find the problem that they want to solve. And it is specifically connected vertically with their subject matter expertise, right? Um, as, if you're an accountant, you might not need a physical robot to do your work, right? But as you said, in farming, in the services industry, in manufacturing, in the space industry, uh, if you know something really, really well, and you can bring that knowledge and meet the current tooling that allows you to build, that can create quite, I think, extreme examples of solutions, and the scalability of these solutions. So to let people connect with you, they can do it during the hack. They can reach out also to you, and basically arrange meetings, talk about potential investment. Um, what is the way that you personally manage your time with founders? How do you spend most of your time talking to founders? How do you create the process where founders can reach you? And what is the filter, right? From the perspective of perspective CEOs, how would they be able to reach you and other investors post the hackathon?
Yeah, definitely. So I have this community called Founders Bay. We're over 150,000. We have almost every VC in our newsletter in our community. So you can go to foundersbay.com. You can create an account and a profile. You even can see a list of investors there. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We also host like 2 to 5 events a week. So we host workshops for founders. We have like private office hours for our members. So that's one way that you can connect with us. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, Marianne Becker. And then if you want to use, if you're building AI agents and you really want to access like search data, you can go to u.com and you can get 200 free credits for our API. So you can start using us there as well. But the best way is to subscribe to the newsletter, foundersbay.com, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. So we are organizing the hackathon, and we are inviting founders to build and get funded, connect with yourself, as an investor, connect with the community. We're obviously also committing capital as grants, and as capital that founders can use to get off the ground. We've decided to commit roughly $1 million this year to just for super early stage prototype founders and people that want to take their ideas to the next level. And you can still join the hackathon if you have an existing project or you want to add something that is very on topic in the robotics space. So all you need to do is go to lablab.ai, join the hackathon. You can also find Marianne there with other speakers. And if you're in San Francisco, join us Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, visit us. If you're interested in decentralized ways to raise capital, then Surge is the way to go. We will be continuing with a series of hacks everywhere in the world, coming to London, coming to Dubai, coming to Paris, Singapore, and also back to Silicon Valley with partners such as Google, NVIDIA, and multiple others. So I would like to thank you very much, Marianne, for joining us today, inviting everybody to participate in the community. And thank you very much also for sharing the very interesting take of a technologist on investment. Yeah. So more of this real talk is needed. More of these sessions that put founders firmly on a track to get investment are needed. So I hope that we'll see you again when we're organizing another hack here in Silicon Valley.
You definitely will. I'm super excited for the hackathon. So if you're around, please come and say hi. I believe that I'm giving a speech there. And then subscribe to the newsletter, follow me on LinkedIn, and then try out our APIs at u.com. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It was an amazing show.